Welcome back to Walk with TFB. Tim Bryson here, and as y'all know, I'm a Black millennial who is eager to have unfiltered conversation with authentic people centered on education, sport, and culture. Today, we are walking with a critical thinker, dean of students, and roommate to three broke best friends. A native of Waveland, Mississippi, he started his higher education journey as a student athlete at Pearl River Community College before transferring and earning his bachelor's degree from the University of Southern Mississippi. He went on to earn his master's degree from California University of Pennsylvania and PhD from William Carey College. His experiences in education span across several functional areas, including but not limited to nutrition and wellness, academic affairs, athletics, career counseling, and student advocacy. Each of these roles uniquely prepared our guest to learn and lead as he now serves as a dean of students and deputy Title IX coordinator at Southeastern Louisiana University. No matter the role, he has continued to prioritize meeting students where they are. If you haven't seen his content on Twitter, then there's a great chance you have seen him playing sand volleyball with students, roaming around Target with a fresh cut, or talking to Southeastern family and friends on the Dean's Corner. But without further ado, y'all help me welcome Dr. Willis. Dr. Gabe, what's popping?
What's going on, man? Thank you for having me. Finally, I've been, probing the site, like, okay, when I'm gonna get my opportunity, and here we are.
I'm glad you brought that up, yo, because I thought about this driving to the gym this morning, and we'll talk about your tweet in a second. But I was like, my biggest flaw right now is that I want everyone on the pod. I want everyone on the pod.
But you know what? I bet people, they may not tell you, they probably want to be on the pod. Like when I saw it, I was like, well, okay, I'm just gonna kind of hang out a little bit. Maybe, if I tweet enough a little bit, I might get my invite. But people, it's, and I don't, you may be humble about it, but I think people want to be on your pod, and I was one of them.
Listen, I appreciate it. That's definitely humbling for sure.
Absolutely.
But it's exciting for me that we have created a community where we can be authentic, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, on this episode. But also our true selves and bringing critical thought and perspective to education, sport, and culture, which I do not believe we can always do in our 9 to 5 and or 5 to 9. But Dr. Willis, Dr. Gabe, Dean Willis, this is going to be a great conversation. It's going to be a great conversation because we're first going to start by talking about Black joy. And Dr. Neff Walker mentioned this in her episode 1 of this season. But for you, right, like what brings you Black joy?
That's a good question. Man, representation brings me Black joy. Like, I think representation, first and foremost, as a husband, as a father of 3 children, and doing it the best way we know how. There is no, rule book on being a father, being a husband. I think there's examples who've done it well, but just being able to be in those spaces on a daily basis with my family, that brings me joy. Being around students on campus, especially those who don't see people like me in positions that I'm in, and what that means for them, and being able to perform at this level brings me joy. Being able to defy as a first generation student, first generation PhD, all that stuff, just being a difference maker. That's joy. Just being in spaces that a lot of people did not see you at brings me joy. So first and foremost is family, though. First and foremost is being a husband, but being a father, man. I was with my son at a football game the other day, and he doesn't even like football like that. But I noticed he just wants to be in my space. Like, that's it. It's not even, he doesn't get down with the sports thing holistically, but I do. And he just wants to be in my space. And that's dope. Like, and from a fatherhood standpoint, it's like, dang, he don't care if he like it. He just wants to be with his daddy. And that's joy, bro. That's joy. I told my wife the other day, and she was like, I've been telling you, he just want to be up under you. I know, love. I know. So that's joy to me, man.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Willis. And again, I know you call them on Twitter your broke best friends. Where did this come? Where did it come? Obviously, I know what it means. I think we all know what it means. But where did that come from?
Well, first and foremost, they think we're rich. Like they think They think me and my wife are like super rich. So and they just ask for stuff all the time. Like my daughter said, well, Dad, I want an iPhone 8 for Christmas. And I'm looking in this catalog, it's only $90. I said, but baby, it might be $50 a month. And she say, oh, we have to pay monthly for this? Like, yeah, brokey. Like you want all this stuff. And they ask for stuff constantly, bro. And I'm the type that I want to get them whatever they want, but they have to realize that stuff is expensive and stuff costs. Yeah, but they don't have any concept of what's expensive and what's not. They don't, like, at all.
Oh man, to be a kid again, yo.
Oh yeah,
to be
bro.
a kid.
Yeah, they don't care. No filter on that. No filter.
No, that's real. That's super real. Well, I'm glad we finally got you on the show. You know how this show goes, starting with segment 1, all about storytelling in particular. I'm curious. We are curious to learn more about your story. So What is it?
Man, I'm a middle child. Grew up with two brothers, older brother. My older brother is 37, or I take that back. He's 38. Younger brother is 35. Both parents in the household, man, super competitive. Sports were it, man. Like, sports drove us. Super competitive through high school. Like I said, played college sports a little bit. That was going to be my path. It was that or nothing else. I was not a good high school student, 17 ACT. I was not a good undergrad student, 2.5, right? I didn't get serious about education, man, until my master's degree. When I got it in exercise science at Cal U. And then I kind of fell in love with the athletic side of things. Like, you know what? I want to work with student athletes. I want to make a change on that side. And man, so I worked at Pearl River for a little while as a fitness specialist, but then I quickly transitioned to Southern Miss as an academic advisor for student athletes. And man, let me tell you, bro, that job changed my trajectory. Like, it grew me up, because from a collaborative standpoint, you're working with 3 different coaches, right? You're working with faculty, staff. You're working with hard-head athletes who you got to fight. Like, literally, study hall was a fight. And I'm 5'5". I'm 5'5", man. All those cats, 6'3" and above. I'm standing in chairs. I'm getting in cussing out arguments with coaches about kids not coming to study hall, and them talking about, man, give them a break. No, sir. You either want to get this degree or not, right? So I'm fighting one side. I remember a coach named Coach Jareem Dowling. He's the assistant coach at North Texas right now. We got into a shouting match, cursing, and I do miss that side. I miss that athletic side, because you can bring it. You ain't got to have no filter. But that job, man, it changed me. It grew me up. It matured me. I got tough skin from working in that job. And I tell everybody who will listen, that job right there as a student athlete academic advisor is why I'm here today. It's why I'm dean of students. It's why I can function in this capacity. Coming through that role, working with men's basketball, softball, tennis, it grew me up, man. So I started working on my PhD dissertation, and my dissertation is largely about student athletes, man. And I transitioned to a role here at Southeastern because I was writing. I was doing a lot of writing within that process. And man, we had 2 kids within the process of my dissertation, my PhD. So we had Madison in 2011 and Noah in 2012. So in sidebar, I failed a class when we had my son, and I had to repeat it in my PhD program. But I took that job at Southeastern, man, an easy role to finish writing. I met a guy named Dr. Eric Summers, who is my immediate boss right now. When I got to campus, he made a joke, man. He said, "We don't hire Black people. What you doing here?" And I laughed. He said, "You must work with a bank." And I was like, "No, I'm an advisor." And he said, "So you look young, and you told me," and we had a conversation. I told him I was getting my PhD, and I said, "I'm going to have it before I'm 30. He said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, I want to be a dean of students by the time I'm 35. And he said, "Well, meet me in my office on Monday." So at that time, man, I started working in his office for 2.5 years for free as a conduct officer. I advised students. I wrote my dissertation, conduct officer. Advise, dissertation, conduct officer, 2 years. He eventually gets promoted to VP of Student Affairs. I become the director of student conduct, man. A year and a half, 2 years later, the assistant vice president for student affairs retires early. We do a national search. I'm put on the committee, and everybody's like, well, why ain't you applying? Well, my boss put me on the committee. Fast forward, man, we have a failed search, and I get named interim, bro. I get named interim dean of students about a year later. And I'm a firm believer of once you give me a taste of something, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Like once you let me in the door, it's over. Like, so once I became interim, nobody was getting it. Nobody was getting it. So I became interim. 6 months later, I became permanent dean, man. And that's my story. And I don't want to leave out my wife. I met my wife back at Pearl River when we were 18. 18 years old. We met my third day on campus. Started dating about a week later, and it's been since I was 18, man. And so I'm 37. You know, this month on the 25th, we'll make 12 years married, and however long that is together. So, yeah. So yeah, man, that's my story, I guess.
Nah, I mean, it's part of it, and I'm glad it's the one you chose to share with us today.
Yeah.
But one of the first questions I have after hearing, you shared your story, particularly while at Southeastern, is, what has kept you at Southeastern, right? Of course, sponsorship matters, mentorship matters, which we can dive into. But like truly and honestly, what has kept you at that institution?
Students. That's it, man. The impact of this role on students, because you have the politics of every position that will wear you out. You have being a young Black man in a role that is considered high profile, that everybody knows. Not everybody knows how to take that. So you have to navigate competing priorities with competing people who may not get down with where you are. So you keep the main thing the main thing. The main thing is the students. How can you impact the life of a student? I put a tweet out the other day, and I said, our role in higher education, no matter what, is to find and uplift the student. Like if you don't do anything while you're on campus, if you do that one thing every day, you've won. So that's the main thing. That's what keeps me focused. And I think no matter where I go, that's going to be the main thing. No matter where I go, I think that's how I'll answer that question. What keeps you here? The students. The impact our role can have on the students. Period.
I'm going to push you a little bit, right?
Okay.
Because for me at Maryland, it's the students too, right? And any of my college athletes in Maryland, I hope will say the same thing. But over the course of the last 7 years and 3 months, I can be pretty confident, right? Pretty sure that there have been institutions coming to get you.
Mm-hmm.
Why Southeastern? What makes Southeastern so special that has kept you there? In addition to the students, of course.
Well, it's really a matter of timing and personal growth. My boss will always tell me, he said, you're more ready than you think. And I have a very solid boss who will call me every so often and say, hey, because you're going to be a vice president, let me tell you this, right? Because this is your next role, let me tell you this. Because I know you'll be here, I'm going to show you this. So it's a matter of, that internal confidence to say, you know what, you are ready for the next. But it's also timing. The best position to be in is being in a good space while also being recruited in other spaces. Because now I can go and say, you know what, do you have this? Do you value this at this institution? If not, I have good. Like I'm straight. So if you don't, you have to meet certain marks now to say if you value the skill level that I bring or the professionalism that I bring, of course, I'm going to have markers as well that I'm looking for and in the next space. But I'm, the students keep me. It's the timing, like you said, yes, I do sometimes get calls, which is pretty cool. My goal in starting this position, and me and my buddy Brandon Wright, who's at UAB, he's the career services director. He said you should never, at this point, you should never be blindly applying to anything.
Mm-hmm.
He said, from this point further, Gabe Willis, he always calls me my full name. He said, Gabe Willis, people should be calling you. You should never just be blindly applying. It should be, hey, you've been referred. Hey, we thought about you for this role. We think you'd be a good fit. And he said, once you get there, now you have something, you're cooking. And I think we're getting there. I think we're getting there, and it's a good feeling, but the work doesn't stop. And I think my upbringing keeps that in mind. The work, like I don't like being outworked. Like I hate it. I'm just too competitive. Even like watching your workout videos, I'm like, dang, he doing a pull up with the knee up. So I practiced those last night on the slide, and I didn't video them because I'm not there yet. But Tim, when I get them, I'm posting it.
Hey, please do. Please do. I'm here for the accountability. I'm sure.
Like, man, he got the little pull-up knee up thing. I ain't got it with the cross. I said, oh boy, this is tough.
Oh, you're a funny dude, bro. But let me transition to segment 2.
Okay.
And particularly staying on this topic of education and educators. Because you talked about scoring at 17 on the ACT, 2.5 in bachelor's, right?
Yep.
Many people, a lot of people would have counted you out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you continue to persist. And we'll talk about the complexity of being resilient and having grit in a second as well. But to get to a point where you not only earn your master's and your PhD, but now currently serve as an educator.
Right.
So why was it so important, and or what led you to ultimately want to serve in an educator role in your career?
Yeah, I think I know it's cliche to always say, be who you needed. I know it's cliche. I know it is, but it's real. Like, it's real. When I'm at orientation, how many students do I know didn't meet the mark in high school? May not meet the mark in college. Like, I know you're a 16, 17 ACT kid. And I've sat in on meetings where I hear the dialogue about students like you. I hear it at risk, right? Color coded, right? I listen to it and I cringe. In every one of those meetings, I speak up and say, hey, I love the way y'all talk about this because that was me. That was me. So you're almost counted out and categorized from the beginning. So I wear the story on my sleeve, especially when I come across people who just ain't it right now, right? Because I wasn't it in 2003. I wasn't. I wanted to play basketball and that was it. And I went to a community college that allowed me to do that, right? I became a decent student. I came from a good upbringing where my parents didn't play about school, but I just wasn't that guy. I just wasn't into it. So being what I needed, someone to say, you know what, you may have struggled here back then, but man, ain't nothing stopping you. It's breath in your body. Can you breathe? Can you breathe? Are you breathing? Right? What's stopping you? Ain't nothing stopping the show, man. And life has a funny way of putting you in a position at levels that other people just didn't see you at back then, man. When I go back to my high school reunions and I go back to talk to my schools and I see peers that, they were 28, 29, 30 ACTs, brilliant high school students, but our positions in life have shifted. And you just, heart is something that can't be measured. And you don't know what life events are going to throw you into a place where you become more motivated. My mom passed in 2009. That changed my trajectory. It changed my life. She had died of a massive heart attack, but our last conversation was about the PhD. She said, you getting your master's? Yeah, Mom, I'm getting it. Are you gonna go for your doctorates? That's what she your doctorates. Put that S on. That's how Black people do. We put that S on everything. I said, nah. She said, go get it. She said, go on, get it. And that was the last conversation we had, man. And that has driven me. It's driven me to no end. And there's nothing that I foresee, with that motivating factor that's gonna stop. And who knows what interruption a kid can have like that to change their trajectory. And you just have to be in place to tell them, listen, I was also there. It doesn't mean we're going to have the same trajectory, but you can get it. It can be done. So just being that person, being the person I needed, and that these students need, that representation, bro. That representation.
I like it. You're on brand. I like that.
Yeah.
What I heard you say is that it's personal. That's what I always say. It's personal.
Yeah.
This is not, ain't got nothing to do with y'all. Say it again.
It's more than personal, man. Like it's beyond. It's like I love my colleagues, but I want to be the best.
Come on.
I do.
Come on.
I love them, but and I value their work, but I want to do it. I want to do it better. I do.
Come on. Talk. Hey. Come on.
Like I don't know if that's a bad thing or what, but I give credit where it's due, because everybody's doing some fantastic work, and what I realize every day that next move you're going to be competing against some really talented folks, but they better be ready to compete. They better be ready to compete.
Hey, I keep it in 2 words, so it's easy to roll off. But I'm with you. I'm right with you.
Yeah.
I'm right with you.
Yeah.
And so I hear this, right? Be who you need. I hear, right? It's more than personal. But one thing that you've been consistent in every interview that I've seen you do, and every Instagram live that I've tuned into, even afterwards, is meeting students where they are.
Yes, sir.
And you've done that in a way, like we were talking before, that for whatever reason seems to be unconventional. I think it's unconventional because no one has done it before.
Yeah.
But makes a lot of sense. So can you talk about why and how social media has been pivotal and really influential in your role, especially as a dean of students in higher education?
Yeah, no doubt. And I have to credit my VP, Dr. Eric Summers, because when I took the role, he said, listen, there's 3 people on campus that students need to know: the university president, the mascot, and the dean of students. I don't know how you're gonna make it happen, but go make it happen. And so, I wrote an article about this on LinkedIn. That's when the social media, Dean Willis appeared on social media. And, at that point it was like, all right, I have to figure out how to be in more than one place. Like I can be on campus, but I got to get on these other platforms where people know where to find me. And who had the hardest time with that? My wife. She was like, you got to be that accessible. Just bear with me right now, love. Just bear with me for a couple years. I'll find some boundaries soon, but I got to get it. This has got to be what separates me. Like people used to do this hashtag separation season. I have to have something that separates me, that makes me different. So it's extreme access, right? It's vulnerability in spaces where I'm already a extrovert already. So that wasn't a huge shift. So, but it was a matter of being accessible beyond. Like how can students shouldn't have a question where to find me. You can always go here and get me or get access to information. So it was a matter of being in multiple places, understanding that parents will love this. Parents will love it. Some faculty staff will dig it, right? But administration will absolutely feel it because they're not catching bullets. They're not catching bullets. I catch the bullet, a stray, a direct, no matter what it is. It can not even be my fault, but I'm present. So they feel, if I just DM Dr. Willis, he'll figure it out. Or I can express my frustration here and he'll figure out where to go with it. But that social media thing was all about access, man. And I know every student is not on social media, bro, but every student figures out how to find me there. Every student. I had a student all the time. I just made this Twitter because I know I can find you here. I made this Instagram. I'm not a social media person, but I know you're here and there's all this information. So I'm going to follow you. Parents. I was at a football game the other day. Somebody yelled, Dr. Willis, I follow your Instagram. Thank you for the information. I'm like, damn, that's dope. That's dope. A lady in Pennsylvania, we talk all the time. Her son plays football here. She says, man, I would have never sent my son there. But the way you interact in this space, I feel like I'm there. I feel present. I feel part of the experience. And that, you can't replace that. So that's how I know it's bad. I'm working on a study right now to figure out, does social media really matter? But anecdotally, it does, bro. Like just from my DMs, the vibe I get, the interactions, it matters. It matters. I want to put some stats to it, but I think it matters.
Yeah, I mean, put put all the stats you need to, but like you say, anecdotally, qualitatively, it matters and it makes sense. But I want to just commend you. I think back to your example of the woman in Pennsylvania, right? Like I feel like I'm present. Yeah. And how you handle Hurricane Ida and being present during that process for students and community stakeholders, if I may say so, was flawless. I'm over here. No, seriously, flawless, right? I mean, talk to me. What you need, right? What questions y'all have? Where y'all at? Who needs? Flawless. And so as you continue to think about how you use social media, not just to engage with students and to be accessible, where do you find inspiration or examples, right? Because I think a lot of us tend to stick within the student affairs space, but there's so many other spaces in tech, in nonprofit, in corporate that we can pull examples from as well to leverage our work.
Yeah, it's plenty of people out here doing their thing, man. Dr. Wade at TLU, big time. Dr. Drummer at Kent State, my counterpart. Yeah. She's big time on social media. Lamar, yourself, you're out there in those spaces, man. The first person I followed was a guy named Dr. Tim, and I can't remember his last name. He's a VP. I forget the school, but I'll recall it. But it's several people in these spaces, man, doing their thing. And like I said, from a competitive standpoint, I watch them. You know, I watch and I value it. And me and Dr. Wade will talk all the time. He'll say, "Oh man, you the man in these spaces." And I'm like, "Nah, bro, we're both doing our thing. We're doing our thing." But I want to do my thing too in these spaces. Because I think there's value in it, and I think it has to become the norm. It has to become the norm, man, because people don't have time to wait for access, to wait for information, to wait to be told, you're valued here. What a small motivational tweet can change the trajectory of your student body just like that.
Yep.
Just like that. The DMs come in all the time about, I was having a bad day, but I saw this tweet and it put me in a good mood, right? Or I feel, you posted about your kids. I have kids. You posted about eating late. I eat late. So people relate. And I tell people all the time, you don't have to get in this space and be Dr. Wade or be Dr. Willis. Get in the space and be you, because the students will pick up a front, right? If you're an introvert and you like cats, get on here and talk about cats and watch how many students who love cats talk to you, because they do. LT, she's in San Francisco at a community college, Menlo. She's at Menlo. I believe the title is Dean of Students, but she gets on here and talks about things that appeals to her, and the students love it. She's not trying to be anybody that she's not. And that's what it is. Get on there, be you, be genuine, be authentic, because the students will call you out. Like, that ain't even you. I don't even know why you trying. That ain't you. That ain't you. My boy at LSU, Dean of Students at LSU, we talked, Brandon, and he called and said, "Hey man, I just want to rap with you about how I can get involved in this space. My students told me to go follow you because you're doing the right thing within these spaces." And that's the first thing I told him. I said, "Man, you said you like music. Get on social media and talk about music. Relate to it, and the students gonna dig it. Those who like it, they'll dig it. So be you, but it's critical. You got to get in these spaces, man. You just got to. This is where they at, man.
Yeah, it's not optional no more.
No, it's not optional.
I think how your VP Summers, right, talked about the mascot, the president, the dean of students. I would even add, particularly within college sport, the athletic director,
the AD.
And it can't be somebody. It can't be a comms team running the page for you.
But because again, it's not authentic. They see. No, they know. Oh, he ain't post that. Everything on my page, for better or worse, because I got in trouble about something the other day or whatever. And that's the thing. Sometimes I have a lot of mentors, right? Who are much more polished than I. I'm not my mentors. I want to have some characteristics like my mentors, but I also want to keep my own edge, right? I want to keep my own flavor, my own edge. And if I push, a boundary, I push a boundary. I know when to come to the mentor and say, hey, should I push this boundary? And I know instinctually, when not to. But there are some boundaries I think we as mentees will push that our mentors won't, and that's okay.
But stay on that for a second, right? Because we were talking prior to this episode is being recorded about authenticity, right? And I had just submitted this assignment late last night, but read this chapter in this book and talks about the complexity of authenticity, as the authenticity is shaped by external factors, including community and societal expectations, your environment, oppression, and socialization.
Correct.
Now, when I read that, I'm like, okay, there was still a moment, well, up until a certain moment in my life, really last summer, I was really conforming into this box. Now, we keep talking about this box in this season, but conforming into this box, what was accepted, et cetera, whether that was through dress, language, what have you. Last summer, after Black Square Instagram Day, I said, fuck it. I'm going to do what I want to do. If y'all don't accept me, it is what it is. I'll find somewhere where I'll be. At what point did you accept who you were and be authentic to yourself, understanding you still have to navigate systems of oppression, right? So being socialized into an industry like student affairs and higher ed. Like, talk to us more about that process, because that's not something we talk about enough, in my personal opinion.
It's actually a daily process. I don't think it's somewhere you just arrive. I think it's a daily process to where, first and foremost, there's a value that you're going to bring to a space that can't be replicated. Okay. What's your title was director of?
Oh, program director for student athlete curriculum.
Student athletes. There's a certain way you do that role. There's a certain value you bring to that role that can't be replicated. So when somebody challenges the manner in which you bring yourself to a space, and they challenge it too much to where they are potentially losing that value, they got to deal with that. So from my standpoint, and not to say you can't be replaced. Everybody can be replaced, but you're going to have a hell of a time. You're going to have a hell of a time replacing a Tim, right? You're going to have a hard time replacing a Tim. And I feel the same way. So when I'm challenging myself to be myself within a space and bring my authentic self, I'm also thinking about the value that I bring in everything that I come with.
This is good.
That if you're willing to replace that, right? If you're willing to challenge that, okay, great. But whatever you bring after is not going to be up to par. You can replace it. Everybody's replaceable. But the way it's done is not going to be the same. So when I think about bringing my authentic self and pushing those boundaries, that's what I think about. I think about number one, I'm going to bring my authentic self, but I'm also going to do the work. I'm also going to bring it every day, right? I may be a little more edgy than those before me, but the work is going to be consistent. And you cannot say anything about the work at all when you're bringing it. So that's how I kind of navigate that daily. It's a challenge because I'm in South Louisiana. So people want you to look and dress and be a certain way, rub shoulders with a certain group. And, for me, I don't always feel the need to rub shoulders in every scenario, every situation where you're supposed to rub shoulders. And I know, as you navigate, sometimes you may not be able to bring everything at every moment, if you get what I'm saying. Like, I have me and you, we can have a beer or something, and there's a way we're going to be in that space that we might not be able to be in the boardroom like that. And that's okay, right? But I shouldn't have to diminish everything about myself, to fit into a box. I just can't do it. I think you build a reputation of bringing solid work, and you let that carry you. You let that carry you, and you bring yourself in the manner in which you can and should, understanding that every space is going to require something different, but it shouldn't require you to diminish everything you are by any means. I love that. And you spoke earlier about this idea of professionalism. And I know something I've been speaking and learning more about myself, right? And even saying the words like networking
for me, it's not just networking. I think we got to really dissect and really break that down and understand what that means. But for me, it's like learning how to finesse, is learning how to build, leverage, name, social capital, socio-political capital. And so as we challenge this idea and practice of professionalism, in air quotes, how do we do that? Like you and I, like how do we do that together to then serve as a model for how our students can also challenge and push against these historic ideas of professionalism as well?
It takes somebody, it takes us, those who are within those positions, to strategically challenge those norms, right? At the fear of consequence sometimes. I watch Dr. Lamar Hilton, man, and I see sometimes, I saw him the other day, he was on campus in ripped jeans, a t-shirt, some ones, and I was like, hey, yes, he's the freaking senior vice president of student affairs. In ones and ripped jeans and a t-shirt on campus. Like, who? And it's dope. I like wearing a suit, but I like to come in with a fitted tee and some jeans on myself and some ones. I got brands and tattoos. I wanna. So it takes being comfortable enough to just show up. To show up and see where it goes. Is it going to be are you really, you're the dean of students dressed like, yes. What is it? What am I supposed to look like? How am I supposed to sound? How am I supposed to interact in this space? And I think it becomes a moment to where people like you and I, Tim, have to consistently challenge and show up in spaces and be those people who students can say, you know what? If you can show up like this as a dean of students, and that's what I want to do, and you create a pipeline. But right now, as we know, we're losing people. We're losing people left and right, and I think that's a large part of it. There's other factors, by all means, there are much larger factors, but I think that authenticity is one of them, and that idea of what's professional and what's not, and who is professional and who's not. I think that's a larger conversation about losing folks that we don't have. And it's going to take people like you and I to challenge it. And it's not always easy. It's not always easy. It's going to take that tough skin because people are going to talk regardless. That's one thing I recognize. People are going to talk. And they talk for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're just flat out hating. And number two, they can't perform at the level in which you're performing anyway. So let them talk. Let them talk. Because when it's time to show up suited and booted, I'm going to show up suited and booted. Right? To the T. You know that.
You already know.
But when it's time to relax, like one day, I don't know if it's going to be Tuesday or Wednesday, but one day I'm actually going to look for me some all white ones. And I already got me a little homecoming t-shirt made. I'm going to have my little coat on, but at some point that coat coming off. The coat coming off. I'm freshly tatted, right? I got something that's super meaningful to me that I've been wanting to get, and I'm not done. And I'm going to be that person in that space. So it's consistently challenging. Understand when and where to do it, and also educating students that, you can be yourself, but it's a time and place. It's a time and place, in a level. But you have to get out of that old mindset, and you have to challenge it. You got to challenge it. But shout out to those. Specifically Dr. Hilton, who consistently shows up, in those spaces like that. I love it.
I'm glad you called me out on that, right? Understanding that it's not just a switch, but it's literally a daily decision.
It's a daily decision.
Because even reflecting now, it's like when I first get up, whatever, brush my teeth, work out, I'm like, all right, what meetings do I have? And with whom?
Correct.
All right, I can pull this.
I was in a meeting today with the president. We were talking about COVID or something like that, and I noticed, I wear this every day, but I noticed a colleague in there who was nicely suited up. He don't never wear a suit. I'm like, oh, so you can put on a suit because you meet with the president, right? So, but something like that. But I thought about, what if I would have showed up in there with my cutoff, with my fresh tattoo showing, what that would look like. But I know we're gonna find out soon because it's gonna be out. We're gonna find out, and people might frown upon it, but you're gonna wind up in the right space where people welcome it.
Yep.
You're gonna end up in the right space where people are like, you know what, that's dope. You dope, and you do good work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the people that's gonna notice it are gonna be the students, right?
Facts.
It's gonna be the students, to which you obviously continue to reiterate. That's why we do our work. That's why we do our work, to uplift, to empower, to equip our students to go change the world.
Yes, sir.
But as I think about our roles as educators, particularly Black male educators within higher education, I want to go back to something that you said in I think it was a recent article, talking about your dad. You said that your dad always says that one thing people can't take from you is your education and knowledge. Go get it all, son.
Go get it all.
And when I read that, I'm like, damn, do all Black people grow up in the same household, the same, the same motto?
Bro, but you got to think, because we have to grow up with those affirmations, man. And I tell people all the time, the number one thing my dad gave to us was unwavering confidence. Like you can't tell my daddy nothing about his 3 boys, like nothing, like at all. Like, son, you're a Willis man. Walk with your chest is up because of your last name. I don't care what else. So those affirmations, man, so much has been taken, and it's, you walk into spaces and sometimes you're already devalued just because of what you look like. You're already looked at differently just because of what you present. So growing up, people knew that. I know that. I tell my kids all the time, you're in a nice neighborhood, you're in a nice house, you drive nice cars, but you are Black. And you will operate in spaces where people will only look at that. So when we tell you you're beautiful beyond your hair, you're beautiful beyond your skin tone, you're beautiful beyond whatever, we do that because at some point somebody's going to try to strip that from you. They're going to strip it. And I don't want it to be the first time you hear it when you go out there. I want to tell you that at some point somebody is going to try to tear you down just because simply what you look like, and we're not going to let them. You have supreme confidence. You have supreme ability. Whatever table you're at, you belong there. As a matter of fact, you can run the table if you want to, right? There is no imposter, nothing. Everything I'm doing, my dad presented it a long time ago. He says, son, one day somebody's going to put that microphone in front of your face and you better be ready. You better be ready because it's coming. And damn it, it came. It came, Tim. And I tell my kids the same thing. Your parents told you the same thing. Go get it. Go get it. And you got to take it. You got to take it because it ain't going to be given. That's for damn sure. It's not going to be given.
It's not going to be given. I can't change.
Double down. Double down.
You got to double down, but it's not going to be given. But as you said before, it's more than personal.
Yeah.
Like this. And that's why every time I put the little emoji with the little star and the little yellow, like it's more than personal. Yeah,
bro. Whenever they opened the dean of students position up for a national search, and they brought me in for my interview, my first statement was, "Thank you for the opportunity to compete." I said, "Man, thank y'all for this opportunity to compete." Like I approached that thing like a basketball game the night before. I was, I'm dun 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 dun, all that.
Yo,
all that. Well, I'm thank you for the opportunity to compete. It was go time.
Hey, it's funny you said that though. It's funny you said that because every time I get a denial, whether it's a fellowship, scholarship, a job, the first thing I say in my head is, y'all fucked up. Y'all fucked up. And again, like, because it's more than personal at this point.
Yep. Yeah.
It's more than personal.
Yeah. I feel like if I sit down in front of you, either you must have made a decision prior to, because I'm not going to leave your space and not be that guy. Like that's just, and to me, I think you have to approach it like that.
Have to.
Why not? Why not?
Hey, you got me hyped, bro.
Yeah.
You got me over here shaking my leg. Now you got me hyped for real, bro.
After I got whipped by the University of Southern Mississippi president. Just a few years back, I called him and I told him, I'm landing all these interviews and I'm just not getting picked. Like I'm not getting a job. I'm like, I don't know what the deal is. So he said, I'm gonna give you 3 sessions. I'm gonna give you 3 sessions to figure out what's wrong with you. First session, man, he said at the end of the call, he said, I wouldn't hire you. I wrote about this.
I saw that. Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't hire you either. Yeah, this sucks. And I said, ain't this a you black joker? This sucks. So he said, I'm giving you 2 more sessions. He said, but I doubt you'll call back. After that ridicule, but I called back, man. And after that, man, my confidence on how to approach those things or those interviews, those questions, it's been superior. But that was another life defining moment when he said, you know what, this ain't it. You ain't it. Damn. like, all right, maybe I'm not it. Maybe I'm. So, but yeah, man, when I sit down and you can feel that when I sit down in front of you, yeah, it's on.
It's go time. It's go time for real. Well, let me transition to segment 3. Because I feel like I said this about most guests, because we'll definitely be doing a part 2. But you do a lot for the students. You're, as you said, extreme access, both in digital and physical spaces. But how can our podcast community best support you and all of you at that?
I think you're doing it right now, Tim. I think the people you bring on and the messages that they bring, is fruitful and it fits the mission. It fits the goal, the purpose. So continue to bring these critical thinkers, these people who are willing to challenge the norm, at the sake of consequence sometimes, because think about it, you will miss out on opportunities by challenging some norms. It's no doubt. It's 100% fact that you're going to miss out on some opportunities by the manner in which you move. But the people you bring on, they understand that and they move forward anyway. I think continue finding people who are those type of thinkers, who don't mind telling their story, who don't mind being that representation for those coming behind us, because that's what it's about. We need those thought changers, those difference makers, to come in and just be interrupters. Like, you got to interrupt this thing because it's stale. It's call it what it is, until we get more people, and I'm considering an administrator, but beyond me, to interrupt some things, it'll remain that way. But we can just kind of keep on sowing the seeds, lay the table, and let those coming behind us know it's okay to have that train of thought. So continue doing what you do. That's how you can. Yes, sir.
No, I appreciate that. Well, before we bounce, Dr. Willis, I got a few questions for you. A few questions to close us out. Question number 1, your favorite sports memory.
My junior year of high school, we made it to the state championship semifinals. We're playing team Vincent Camper played for Oxford, Mississippi. They were like number 4 in the state. We had no business being there. Had nobody over 6 feet on our team. But we wound up whipping them boys by like 12 or 13, man. On our way to the Final Four, our first time making the Final Four in a long time. And we just ran a clinic. It was a clinic. We were a private school, but it was brothers. Motion breakdown, very fundamental. We cut them boys to pieces, man. And Vincent Camper, a kid who signed with Ole Miss, we held him pretty good, man. And it was just a memorable moment. The probably the most memorable. Just we executed flawlessly, flawless, man. Everything we learned, we brought to the game and executed. And I watched that film to this day.
Yeah, nothing beats childhood and high school sports. I don't care what level you play at, especially about your best friends growing up.
Yes, sir.
But question two, and I'm super curious about your answer to this one. Top 5 artists all time.
Ooh, okay, so I'll preface this. I'm not a big music guy.
Dang, no, yeah, all right.
I'm
This is
I'm
good.
I'm not a like I don't have to have music on. Like and most people don't know this. If I'm chilling, it's classical. Like it's a classical type vibe. If I'm going to sleep, it's Pandora meditation station. But of course, Lil Wayne all time.
Yeah, I'll say yeah. In your area, yeah.
All time. You all time. Some of the lines, if you just go back and listen to Wayne, like you can't even. And I'm on reserve because this is an educational show.
Yeah, it is.
Some of those lines, 6'7". Oh my gosh, come on. But Jay, of course Kanye, Drake is in there. But yeah, I don't rate because but Wayne all time for sure.
That's fine. Yeah, Wayne is wild because the new generation, they don't really know.
And it is mind-boggling because when I go back and listen to the bars, I stop and I'm like, this man was on something else.
Yo, it's funny you said that though. I was talking to my homeboy yesterday, and I'm like, yo, there's people, especially like high schoolers, who don't remember and or know Dwight Howard back when he was Superman in Orlando.
Bro.
When he was just nasty. No, like they know the Lakers, the Rockies, they don't know Superman.
I was listening to Kevin Garnett's book. I forget the name of it, but I'm like on the last part of it. But he was talking about guys that you would, if you was in Chicago walking down a dark alley, and who would you take with you? And he listed Dwight Howard as one of those people. And if people think about it now, they're gonna be like, Dwight Howard? But how soon we forget. This man was an animal. How soon we forget. And that's a perfect, Dwight Howard, absolutely. Animal
lesson within itself.
Yep.
All right, question 3. You going to brunch? Bottomless brunch. You plus 5 people. Who you bringing?
Ooh. Like out of anybody?
Yep, bottomless brunch. Anybody, dead or alive?
Ooh. My wife for one. I know
she's
gonna
Good answer. Yeah.
So she got to come. I'm bringing them kids going with the grandparents. Them broke. They can't pay for nothing, so they definitely can't eat nothing at the brunch. John Wooden. Not only just because of from a leadership standpoint, but the basketball knowledge. Kobe Bryant, absolutely. Kobe has got to come. Malcolm X.
This is a good brunch. Okay, one more person.
Malcolm X. You know what? Bring my pops.
Ooh, that's actually Pops, Malcolm, John, the wife, and Kobe.
I'm bringing my pops.
That would be a good brunch. That would be a good brunch. Well, the last question before we head out of here, who do you want to see and or hear from on Walk with TFB?
Oh, that's a good one. Man, there's so many dope people out here. Golly, doing some really good stuff. I think Dr. Wade. Over at TLU, and I'll tell you why. When he transitioned from Grambling as an HBCU to TLU, I am keenly interested in that experience, for one, because I know he's so dope. He can make the transition, but those campus makeups are so different. And he understands also the value of being in this space. And I know we have a similar trajectory and goals. But I know he just brings a different perspective. He has some unique interest that I don't necessarily have. He's a huge Marvel guy, So, but yeah, he's a dope guy, man, and I love his work, and I love everything he brings from a student affairs standpoint.
I appreciate that, Dr. Wade. We coming to get you.
Yeah, go get it.
You'll be a guest on Walk with TFB for sure. But Dr. Willis, man, thank you.
Yes, sir, man.
Thank you for your presence, your voice, your leadership.
It's been good, man. I needed it. It's been
Oh,
a therapy.
Hey, we're gonna do more work though. I got some ideas for us from a collaboration standpoint, especially given our interest, but also our desire and commitment to not just be representation in this space, but also to disrupt and interrupt as well.
Man, I'm looking forward to it.
Always, yo. I appreciate you. But for everyone else, man, thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of Walk with TFB. I look forward to having more unfiltered conversation with just dope millennial educators during this season. As always, listen to the previous episodes, but also share this episode with your community members. I look forward to walking with y'all next week. But until then, walk with me.